So I just want to introduce, well, I have the delight to say a little bit about Amitasuri. I don't know whether everybody has actually met Amitasuri in the last 3 years that you've been with us in Nottingham. Amitasuri's been involved, in the order for a long time. She is from Glasgow and she's just gone back there, but she's also lived in Manchester, was very involved with the Manchester Buddhist Centre for a while, then came to Nottingham because of a job, and she was very involved with our Sangha. Amitasuri is somebody with a really big heart, a really big heart. We just had, was it last week? No, the week before, we had we had actually not a last chapter meeting, an order meeting. A chapter meeting is a meeting weekly where some of us order members in Nottingham all meet together. Yeah, so there's different chapters actually in Nottingham. And Amitasuri's been in a chapter with Kusala Devi and me and other women order members for all those years that she was in Nottingham. And we rejoiced in her. And one of the things that people said is how big a heart she has. Yeah, she's a very kind person. What's really close to her is communication, really connecting with people, understanding how people tick, how people work. Non-violent communication is a passion of Amitasuri. And another thing that was said, and I might have been one of the people saying that because I think she's the best networker ever. If I think Karina Vaci was saying it, I think that within a few weeks it's like Amitasuri knows more about Nottingham than any of us do. she just knows where to go. She's the best one to ask you where to go if you need something. Go and ask Amitasuri because she'll know. She's a very good networker. And I think under that is really a deep care and a deep passion for being connected with people. So yes, big heart. I'm going to miss you. We're all going to miss you, Amitasuri, in Nottingham. You're not in our local Sangha anymore. You're in a Sangha, Interatna Sangha. We'll meet you. But yeah, wishing you well in Glasgow, really. And sad that you have gone from here. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to hearing you speak about Amitabha. So over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Amitasuri. It's very generous of you, and it's a delight to be able to see so many people here and feel the warmth of the connection that I have with you, despite being online, and that may be the way for a lot of us to go forward. Thank you, Ari Vachin, for the meditation, and Richard for the mantra, and everyone for coming. So I'd like to dedicate this for the benefit of all beings, that we may be free from suffering. And it's looking like I see myself. Kusala Devi, is there a way that I'm not looking at myself through this, or is that how it is for?
Yeah, I've just pinned you, Amitasuri, because we're recording the talk, so we just wanted it to be pinned on you. I think if you want to see other people, you may be able to click gallery view in your top right.
This works. Okay. Am I still pinned for everybody else? Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Normally I hide myself view, so I don't keep checking myself out in this. So that's a lot better that I see you guys. So yeah, the intention. So I've dedicated the talk. The intention that I have for giving this talk is that I share it with for the 3 levels of wisdom, that you may hear it, reflect on it, and live your lives in the light of Amitabha's love, so to speak. So some of you may not know about the 3 levels of wisdom, so just introduce them initially. The first one is Shruti Maya Pranya. Shruti is to listen or to hear or to read. Maya Pranya is the wisdom, level of wisdom. So it's about reading the Dharma, hearing the Dharma, listening to the Dharma. Chinta Maya Pranya is a bit like chitta. Chinta is reflecting on it in your heart. So you're not just listening to gain knowledge. You could read knowledge anywhere, but what's the point? So what's the point? Something's brought you here. So the framework for it is, I hope that you can reflect and while you're listening, listen to how that relates to your life and your experience. The brief that I gave, I think, was something to do with how do you in your life live in Amitabha's Pure Land, or how does it exist? What are the treasures, the jewels, the happinesses and the beauties in your life. So while you're listening, I invite you to reflect on how does this relate to me. And the Shruti Maya Pranya, Chinta Maya Pranya, Bhavana Maya Pranya. Bhavana you may know from Metta Bhavana. So it's about a becoming. Becoming, not just the theory, but how do you live it? Yeah, so wisdom through contemplation. So wisdom, how did I write this? Wisdom through listening, wisdom through thinking or reflecting, and how what you hear applies to you, and then wisdom through contemplation. So it might be like when you go on a retreat, you feel things a bit more deeply. Poetry affects you more deeply, the Dharma affects you more deeply, you're allowing it to become it, allowing yourself to become it. So I'm gonna, it's a bit, the talk's a little bit like that. I've got a little timer for myself, I meant to press play so that I hear little clicks every 5 minutes. Yeah, so I'm gonna give you information, that's the knowledge, the Shruti Maya Pranya. Chinta Maya Pranya, I'm going to invite you to reflect, and Bhavana Maya Pranya, I'm going to ask you some questions about how it relates to you. So it's 3 stages in this talk. And a bit like the path of vision, the Eightfold Path, there's a path of vision and there's a path of transformation. And the first step on that path of transformation is right emotion. So there's right vision or perfect vision and perfect emotion. And Sangha, our teacher, talks about how do we find, in fact, this is my first screen share, let's see, how do we find emotional equivalents to our intellectual understandings? Yeah, our teacher Sangha has said, it's in friendship, Maitri, that we may find the emotional equivalent of the intellectual understanding of the doctrine of no self. And the gift of these teachings can help us move beyond self-clinging into a deeper and far more mysterious connection with one another, a greater love. So Maha Maitri, a greater love. So it's not just about knowledge, it's intellect, it's about emotional, rational or emotional. So developing not just knowledge, but wisdom. And it brings us into deeper relationship, the great love. And I associate love with Amitabha, boundless love, boundless compassion. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of information about him, and I'm going to ask you to reflect on the qualities and the symbolism of what you see or hear and how that relates to you. Yeah, was that it for my first section? Actually, one way that it relates to me is having heard that mantra in the little break. I've got I don't know if you can see it anyway, I've got a guitar here and I'm not that great at it, but I decided I would pick it up while I was sort of pacing about thinking, okay, I'm on next. And I don't think I've done this before, but I managed to work out the chords for that mantra, Om Mami Devakri. I mean, I've chanted it loads, but I've never tried to play it. And it happened. So in a way, I've sort of listened, I've heard, I've been feeling it in my body, and then I just went up and it came through my fingers and through my heart into the guitar strings and into a melody. Magic. That wasn't part of the talk, but here we go. So Amitabha. What does he mean? What does it mean? What's his place in the mandala? Well, I just want to acknowledge his consort Pandaravasini, or her consort Amitabha, the masculine and feminine principles of this boundless light. Amita, like my name, boundless, infinite, immeasurable. Abha is light. And he has a counterpart, Amitayas, which is boundless light. So it's the qualities of the infiniteness that Amitabha embodies, these qualities. Boundless, immeasurable, like the sky. So there's a quality for you to reflect. What is immeasurable in your life? What is boundless in your life? I'm going to bring you up the picture. I really liked whoever chose that picture for this talk of Amitabha. It's from Padmaloka, and it's Aloka who did it. Here we go. Can I share that? Yeah. No, that's not the one, is it? How did that happen? Share screen. Is it this one? There we go, that worked. Yeah, so there you go. This is a vision that Bhante had of Amitabha on the ocean, and Amitabha living within the heart of Amitabha. I really like this. So bright ruby red. I'm going to say a little bit about this symbolism. He's a Buddha of the Western realm, And the Western realm is often associated with the sunset. He dwells in the West. And the sun, the associations I have with the sunset is the only time of day that you can actually look at the sun. It's so soft, your eyes don't get strained if you're looking at a sunset. And if you think of all the times you've been in a car or you've been out in nature somewhere and you go, oh, let's stay so we can see the sunset. So how do you feel? I'm inviting you to recall, maybe you don't just remember just one sunset, but you can remember all the sunsets that you've been out experiencing and what happens to you when you're remembering maybe somebody that you're with or the feeling that you had, the openness, the vastness. So there he is in the Western realm, dark blue, and this red lotus, sitting on the red lotus. And his hands are a little bit different in this mudra here. The mudra is a hand position. Often he has a little bowl of which we call shunyata, where his thumbs are touching, his hands are held, and there's this that fascinated before Amitabha actually became a Buddha that I practiced or reflected on. I often wondered what was the wisdom of shunyata. So this bowl where his hands and thumbs touch. I'm making the symbol. You can't, I don't know if you can see me. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm doing that. Okay, so there in here. And often it's this main symbol of Buddhism is Amitabha. That's the one that you most often see. And it's a meditating mudra. He's a meditating mudra, Buddha of kindness and compassion. And yeah, I often contrast it to the image of like Jesus on a cross, or which doesn't seem such a peaceful image. And I think people have Buddhas in their household or their garden because he's often a peaceful image. It's the one of Amitabha. In fact, yeah, I've got one here. Yeah, and I made one. I made a little, somebody gave me a tobacco tin, and I made a little cardboard Amitabha. You see on there? With some paper from an Easter egg. Yeah, very simple, peaceful image. And what he does, he's got an animal. Most of the jinnas have got an animal, and Amitabha's animal is the peacock. Now, what happens when you see a peacock? Do you, like me, take a little gasp and go, wow, are you going to show us your tail? So peacocks, yeah, what have they got on their tails? They've got their feathers when they're spread, male peacocks. It's like an eye, and they're quite beautiful. And what the special thing about peacocks is that they can eat poison. They eat snakes. They eat snakes, and they can eat poisonous snakes and not die. Now, if we were to eat poison, we'd die. So he's a symbol for Amitabha, that Amitabha can transmute hatred into compassion. So a peacock transmutes poison into food and beauty, this beauty of this tail. So what do we do? Have we got something in our life that we can see as an obstacle or as something painful, that there's hatred, and how do we transform it into compassion? Yeah. And so Amitabha is a Buddha that we can call if there's something that we're struggling with, like hatred. He's often, we could be a greed type, a hatred type, or an ignorant type. Some people, we've got a tendency, I'd say I'm probably a bit of a greed type. But if hatred is your thing, then Amitabha is a Buddha to call on to say, help me transform this into compassion. So a peacock protects a household. That's what, from snakes, from poison. So his symbolism takes poison and the suffering of the world and transmutes it to protect the world and alleviate suffering. So yeah, how do you take on suffering and transmute it into beauty? Yeah, is there something that you've experienced that has been difficult and you've said, okay, so have I got an image that I have to show you now? What's my next screenshot? Oh yeah, I do. Okay, there we go. So this is one that is a sort of spiritual death image and a spiritual rebirth. How do we die to something that we're holding on to? There might be a resentment or a hatred. And what do we do to let go of it? Let's see, can I see? Is this it? Can't really tell. No, that's not. Oh yeah, here we go. So this is a poem by Rumi. Inside this new love, die. Your way begins on the other side. Become the sky. Take an axe to the prison wall. Walk out like someone suddenly born into colour. Do it now. You're covered with thick cloud. Be quiet. Quietness is the surest sign that you've died. Your old running was a frantic running from silence. The speechless full moon comes out now. Walk out like someone suddenly born into colour. Do it now. So yeah, may we let go of the things that hold us back. May we transmute that obstacle or that difficulty, that hatred into compassion for ourselves, compassion for others. Amitabha supports us to do that. That transformation is possible. So yeah, like a new being. I love that image that Rumi does. How do we wake up like someone suddenly born into colour? So the colour red, I didn't deliberately get this flat because it had a red wall or a white fireplace. I don't understand a fireplace, but now it's a shrine and I'm really pleased that it has got that effect on me. I see this colour red. So how does he live within my heart? How do I live in Amitabha's pure land, the happy land of Sukhavati, where there's jewels on every tree? I'm going to say 3 ways that I connect with Amitabha in my life. And I'd like you to see, this is sort of my becoming. There's the listening, the reflecting. This is how I become, how I let Amitabha live through me. Colour red is one. When I see red, I can't now not think of Amitabha and the boundless qualities of compassion and Maitri, metta. Yeah, and red appears in loads of places. I've mentioned the sunset and the sky, infinite sky. It's boundless. And blush, his seed syllable is chri, H-R-I-H in a way, chri, and it's chri is a sort of quality that we might blush. So the redness of blush or love, there's lots of things associated with red, but blush, when I feel shame at having done something that I'm not quite happy with, if I've breached a precept or I know that I could be kinder in a situation, then there's a bit of shame. I feel a bit of shame in myself, but shame being one of the positive mental events, it's a positive quality for Amitabha, the syllable chri, and its counterpart is apatrapya, which is respect for the wisdom of our elder, respect for the wise. So the wisdom of the Buddha would tell me, oh, just be kind, Amitasuri, just be kind. You've done something that's you're not happy with. I confess it with my chapter or with another practitioner. And I want to transform it. So a spiritual death to that way of being and spiritual rebirth to a new way. So that colour red associates with sunset, with blush, with chri, with transformation. It's one of the other ways, going beyond myself. How do I do that? Yeah, well, that's a bit of transformation. When I feel a bit attached or a bit fixed, attached to something, generosity and gratitude. That's some of the ways. Generosity, but going beyond myself. I've had a few examples there. One of them is I'm baking bread quite a lot at the moment. So every loaf I bake, I'll make sure to bake another one to give away. And it's I put a bit of my heart into it. And it sort of frees my attachment to things. It helps me to let go. It's quite symbolic. So what are the ways that you free yourself from a fixedness? That you don't have enough, there's not enough to go round, or that it's mine. And you give something that I actually have thought, oh, I quite need a loaf at the moment. Now somebody's come to the house and I've just said, no, you have that. So yeah, I can free myself from the tightness of my own ego identity. Generosity transforms. And the third one, gratitude. Noticing, whatever state I'm in, shining this warmth, this light on something that I'm grateful for. And I say shining because I think of Amitabha shining, his love, shining light, boundless light on something. There's always something to be grateful for. Bringing metta to it, chanting. Sometimes I'll make up tunes to mantras. There's always something. Connection, the warmth of friendship. Seeing you all here. Very beautiful. like smiles, you know, smiling. Yeah. And because I'm spotlighted, if this is recording, if you're watching later, everybody's actually smiling. I hope people can see you if they're watching later, because it's lovely. Yeah, so aliveness, that helps me feel alive if I can connect with what I'm grateful for. And then there's this little share screen that came up mistakenly earlier. Stay close to anything that makes you glad you're alive. Another Sufi poet. What helps you? What helps you feel glad that you're alive? That could be in the questions afterwards. 3 things. Name 3 things that help you feel glad you're alive. Yeah, so I think that's kind of about it, actually. Poetry and art. Yeah, making that. Actually had another picture as well. It was just a kind of practice to try and use my paint, and I called this illumination or illuminous. And I thought, oh yeah, it's just colour. Yeah. Practices, art, poetry. Yeah. And there's quite a lot of poems about Amitabha. In fact, the other part of that cigarette tin or tobacco tin, that's what it was. I stuck in a poem, and you probably won't be able to see it. It says, "You as you are, you're just right. Your face, body, name, surname, for you, they're just right." Now, if you've not heard that poem, I hope you get to hear it at some point. You have to find that yourself later, though. But there's, wherever you go, whether you go to hell or go to the Pure Land, wherever you go, it's just right. And then there's a line that said, "The life in which you walk together with Amida, there's no way that it can't be just right. And when you receive your life as just right, then a deep and profound trust begins to open up." It's quite a hard poem to find, actually. Goromatsu Maikawa. I will put it in the chat, the name, actually. If anybody's interested, I just call it just right. So yeah, poetry. Let me see what my time is. I think we're just about finishing. The last thing I want to share on the screen. Let's see. Oh yeah, it's part of this. That's the next thing. This is Lama Anagarika Govinda, who was friends with Sangha when they were in India, wrote quite some amazing things about Amitabha, and this actual poem. Yeah, the setting sun. I don't know if you want to read it in silence. No. Amitabha, thou who liveth within my heart. This is like a summary of my talk, actually. I could have read you this, and this would have said it really concisely and eloquently. Thou who liveth within my heart, awaken me to the immensity of thy spirit, to the experience of thy living presence. Deliver me, please, deliver me from the bonds of desire, from the slavery of small aims, from the delusion of narrow egohood. Enlighten me with the light of thy wisdom. Suffuse me with the incandescence of thy love, which includes and embraces the darkness. It's got to embrace the darkness. It includes and embraces the darkness, like the light that surrounds the dark core of the flame, like the love of a mother that surrounds the growing life in the darkness of her womb, like the earth protecting the tender germ of the seed. Let me be the seed of thy living light. Let me be the seed of thy living light, Amitabha. Give me the strength to burst the sheath of selfhood, and like the seed that dies in order to be reborn, let me go fearlessly. Let me fearlessly go through the portals of death, so that I may awaken to the greater life, the all-embracing life of thy love, the all-embracing love of thy wisdom. So that's my response via Lama Anagarika Govinda to Amitabha. And I want you to just connect, see what happens in your own life. How do you live your life through the love of Amitabha's warmth, radiance, boundless light and compassion? Thank you.
Thank you, Amitasuri. Thank you very much. Really lovely.